Outside it was very dark and very foggy. In the library it was very quiet. The room was lit by a small lamp on a table. Basil sat down and continued talking. "Why don't people want to be your friends any more, Dorian?" he asked. "The Duke of Berwick will not stay in the same room as you. Because of you, Sir Henry Ashton has left England forever. And there are worse things," he went on. "A young soldier has killed himself. Adrian Singleton has disappeared. Lord Kent is very upset about his son. Nobody will talk to the Duke of Perth. Oh, Dorian, these people were your friends. What have you done to them?" "Stop it, Basil," shouted Dorian. "I haven't done anything. It's not my fault if young men do stupid things." "I want to believe you," said Basil sadly, "but you have influenced your friends. You have made people do terrible things. What did you do to Harry's sister? Now no one will speak to her. Are you an evil man, Dorian?" "Take care, Basil," said Dorian. "Do not say any more." But Basil continued speaking. "I told people that you were a good man. I said I knew you well. But do I know you well? I cannot see your soul. I do not know if there is good or evil inside you." "No," said Dorian slowly. "You cannot see my soul." His body was shaking, and his face was very pale. Basil looked at Dorian's face. "Nobody can see inside another man," he said. "Nobody can see another man's soul." Suddenly Dorian laughed. He gave a loud, unpleasant laugh. "Come with me, Basil," he said, picking up the lamp from the table. "You have said enough about my soul. Tonight you shall see it." Dorian led Basil upstairs towards the room in the attic. When they reached the door of the room, Dorian turned to Basil. "Are you sure you want to come in?" he asked. "Yes," Basil said, but he was confused. What did Dorian mean? What was in the room? Dorian laughed again and unlocked the door. They walked across the room. Dorian put the lamp on an old table. Then he pointed at the cloth which covered the picture. "You think that nobody can see another man's soul," he said. "You're wrong. Pull away that cloth, and you will see mine." Dorian's voice was hard and cruel. "What are you talking about? Are you mad?" asked Basil. Suddenly, Dorian pulled away the cloth, and Basil saw the picture. He saw the terrible face in the picture smiling at him. It was the most awful face he had ever seen. Basil moved backwards, away from that cruel, evil face. He could see that it was his painting. It was his painting of the blonde, pale, and beautiful young man. The hair was blonde, the mouth was red, and the eyes were blue. But the face was wrinkled and ugly, and it was evil. Dorian watched Basil. He smiled unpleasantly. "What does this mean?" said Basil at last. "Don't you know what it means, dear Basil?" said Dorian. "It means that my wish came true. Do you remember the day you finished this portrait? Do you remember the day I met Harry? Do you remember my wish?" "Oh, God," whispered Basil. "You wished that the picture would grow old. You wished that you would stay young. Oh, no." "Oh, yes," said Dorian. "And the portrait shows you the true Dorian Gray. It shows you my soul." Basil sat down suddenly on an old chair. He put his head in his hands. "Oh, God," he said. "Oh, God, you must be very evil. You are more evil than anybody knows." Basil fell forward so his head and arms were on the table. He did not want to look at the picture again. "We must pray, Dorian," he said. "It is not too late." "It is too late," replied Dorian. "It's much too late to pray." Then suddenly Dorian became angry. He became angry with Basil. It was Basil's fault. Basil had painted the picture. He hated Basil. Dorian looked at the terrible face in the picture. It was smiling at him, and it was evil. A knife was lying on the old table. Dorian picked up the knife and looked at Basil. Then he stabbed his friend with the knife. He pushed the knife into Basil's neck. Basil's head hit the table, and Dorian stabbed him again and again. Basil made a terrible sound. He tried to breathe, but he could not. Blood came from his mouth. It became quiet in the attic room. Dorian listened. He heard the sound of Basil's blood dripping onto the carpet. There was no other sound. Dorian walked quietly across the room and looked out of the window. The fog had gone, and London was quiet. Dorian walked back across the room and picked up the lamp. He saw the dead thing lying across the table. It was so quiet, and its hands were very white. Dorian left the room and locked the door behind him. He went back to the library. Dorian quickly put Basil's suitcase and coat in a cupboard. People were hanged for murder, hanged by the neck until they were dead. Dorian did not want to be hanged. What was he going to do? Nobody has seen me arrive home, Dorian thought. The servants are asleep, and Basil was going to go to Paris tonight. He was going to catch the midnight train. Dorian soon decided what to do. It was 2:05 in the morning. Quietly, Dorian left the house and shut the door behind him. Then he started to ring the doorbell. After 5 minutes, his servant Francis opened the door. "I'm sorry to wake you up," said Dorian, "but I forgot my front door key. What time is it?" 10 minutes past 2, sir," replied Francis, looking at the clock. "Oh dear, I'm very late," said Dorian. "Did anybody call while I was out?" "Yes, sir," replied Francis. "Mr. Hallward called. He waited for you until 11 o'clock, then he went away to catch a train." "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't see him. Did he leave a message?" "Yes, sir. He said he was going to Paris. He said he would write to you." "Thank you, Francis," said Dorian. "You can go to bed now." Dorian went back to the library. He had to think again. He walked up and down the room for a quarter of an hour. Then he picked up a book and looked through a list of addresses. At last he found the right address. Alan Campbell, 152 Hertford Street. Yes, Alan Campbell was the man he needed.
The picture sequence from the cinema has